Hey everybody, and welcome back to the film log. You know what this is at this point, so I'm just gonna jump right into it. Yeah, I watched the Aladdin remake for reasons of just wanting to test how I would feel about remakes of movies that I don't care that much about to begin with. I don't even know if I ever watched the original all the way through when I was younger, but even then, I could still tell that this remake was just completely zapped of any and all personality that the original had. Monet Masson, who played Aladdin, gave the worst performance I've seen in I don't even know how long. I hope he was trying to sound as bland as he possibly could, because if he wasn't, that's rough, man. So yeah, when the main character can't even say a line without making you want to groan, it makes the entire viewing experience very much not good. I had heard going into this that Will Smith was generally considered to be the best part of the movie, which was not a promising thing to hear, but I guess he was technically, because he was the only one who seemed like he had any kind of personality, and even then it still felt like it was just there out of obligation because the original genie was so animated. The only reason this is getting a 2 out of 10 instead of a 1 is because of some kind of unintentionally funny moments, like Will Smith and his hilariously noticeable auto-tune.
To another Arabian night.
Yeah, I'm not gonna waste much time on this. I don't know what I was really expecting, but I think I got what I was expecting. 2 out of 10. Dear Evan Hansen, I'll start by saying that I've never seen or really even heard of the stage play that this is based on before this movie grabbed my attention, but I can say that I would absolutely prefer that version of the story from what I've read about the changes that were made to the movie. Now let me bring up the thing that everyone's talking about when they discuss this movie. Ben Platt just looks too damn old to be playing a high schooler at this point, and they clearly knew this because they did some kind of makeup job to try to make him look younger, but instead they made him look a little bit older, which is hilarious. Even not knowing about the makeup job before I researched it a little bit, I could tell like something seems off about him. Why does he look so weird? I watched this movie with my wife, and at one point somebody actually sarcastically asked him if he was 5, and she responded by just saying, maybe 35. And given the plot, the fact that he looks so much older than the role, it just makes everything he does seem a little bit more malicious, and not in a naive way, but like kind of creepy. Also, why did you cast Amy Adams in a musical if you're not gonna have her actually sing? She's a good singer. Why did you not take advantage of that? Julianne Moore was also totally wasted in this because during her song she came off more like she was angry than sad. It also doesn't help that in the middle of it they just keep cutting back to this nightmare fuel. Yeah, this movie's just a mess. I did not like this. There was nothing interesting going on in terms of direction. All the performances felt underwhelming. The changes that they made from the stage play are really questionable, and on a broader scale just seems like a movie that will please no one. 3 out of 10. Eternals. I didn't like this. I already made a review of it, and you can go check that out if you want. Gangs of New York. Now, my thoughts on this can pretty much be summed up by saying that it felt like it was oozing with wasted potential. Daniel Day-Lewis completely steals the show, as should come as a surprise to no one, but I just kept thinking the whole time how much better the narrative would have been if they made him the main focus. Then again, it does suffer from a lot of early 2000s tropes, especially in the editing. Like, there's a lot of slow-mo where they drop the frame rate and it just makes it look really choppy. That's surprising, especially because this is a Martin Scorsese movie. It just goes to show you that nobody's immune from chasing bad trends. The story also should have felt grand and Shakespearean, but felt weirdly claustrophobic in a way. I don't think I'm saying anything too controversial here because it's generally considered one of Scorsese's weakest movies, and I'd have to say it's probably the worst one that I've seen. There's still a lot of intriguing elements at play, but I just couldn't shake the feeling that this should have been amazing, but kind of got mucked up in trying to seem hip and with it. 6 out of 10. King Richard. From the first piece of advertising I saw about this movie, I thought that it was a weird direction to take it. A Venus and Serena Williams biopic mainly focused on their dad. And after seeing it, I do kinda still feel that way, but it doesn't bug me that much. All the performances were pretty solid. Will Smith was particularly good, but it really doesn't do much to separate itself from any other run-of-the-mill inspirational sports movie. If you want to see something that stays firmly in the comfort zone and doesn't push that many boundaries, this is for you. I might sound a little bit more negative than I actually am, but there's only so many ways to say, yeah, I didn't mind this. It's nothing special, but it's enjoyable. Though there were a few things that I found kind of distractingly mediocre. There's a joke at one point where Will Smith turns down an offer by letting out a stock fart sound effect, and I nearly laughed out loud in the theater. Also, John Bernthal sounded like he was trying to do an Adam Sandler impression, and it was really distracting. I don't know. 6 out of 10. Maid. This is a drama miniseries on Netflix, and I very much enjoyed it. That's not to say I don't have some criticisms, but this show absolutely had me invested from the first episode. Really had me feeling for this character, just wishing that something would go her way. I could see a lot of where the plot was going from a mile away, but I don't think it was necessarily trying to have an unpredictable plot, because it's basically a PSA about domestic abuse and how hard it can truly be to get out of a situation like that. The character of Sean works super well for this, not just because he's an abusive asshole. He's a realistic abusive asshole. Abusive relationships really do happen like this, and a lot of times the victim does end up going back to them because they see the good side that made them fall for the person in the first place. It's not perfectly portrayed in this sense, but it does feel extremely impactful nonetheless. One thing I will mention is that I would have preferred for some of the bumps in the road she hits to have been from her own doing. I have to kind of get into spoiler territory, so click this time code right now that's on screen if you don't want to hear spoilers. A good example of what I'm talking about would be when she got the apartment. It was pretty clearly implied that she was bullshitting about being an experienced landscaper, which was part of the reason she got it, but then she kind of just picks it up naturally. It would have been nice to see that paid off, but instead she gets kicked out because Sean passed out on the owner's couch, and that just makes the fact that she eventually goes back to him feel totally undeserved.
What an asshole!
But anyway, beyond that, the ending is insanely cheesy. Like, the first and last episodes feel like two totally different shows because the structure got more and more paint by numbers as it went on. Anyway, despite these criticisms, I think this show was still great. Margaret Qualley gave a fantastic lead performance, and I think it might be worth watching just for her. I'd highly recommend you give this a chance if you haven't seen it yet. 8 out of 10. Pig, starring Nicolas Cage, the meme lord himself. Now, with the marketing and the general plot synopsis of this movie, it's very easy to see how this could have turned into one of his schlocky B movies that he's known for pumping out now, but Instead, it turns into something a lot more mature and subversive than that. I think it's best if you go in cold to this and know as little about it as possible. Just let it take you on the ride that it takes you on. It's also a surprisingly really good food movie. I'd recommend this if you haven't seen it yet. 7 out of 10. Possession. This has to be one of the most visceral feeling movies that I've ever watched. There are a lot of choices that really add to this atmosphere, like the camera work, the often boxy audio, and a lot of the just general up close and personal nature of the horrific situation that you're watching unfold. There were a few things I was kind of confused about though, as far as like the implications of the most horrific scenes in the movie, which are definitely the ones that are going to stick with me the most. One scene in particular in a subway tunnel, it's just so anxiety inducing and flawlessly done almost. I'd say if you have bad anxiety, you probably shouldn't watch this movie, but I thought that it really nailed its overbearing tone that it was going for. 8 out of 10. Good job, Polish director that has a name that I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce. Red Notice. To put it simply, this is a really paint-by-numbers movie, but then again, I'm a sucker for a heist movie. There's just something about seeing a plan to steal an expensive thing coming to fruition that just kind of pulls me in, no matter how mediocre the story bringing it together is. We got 3 big stars in this. People are gonna like it no matter what. Just don't make something outright awful and we'll be good. I should point out that Ryan Reynolds is basically just Deadpool now. There's several lines that straight up could just be in a Deadpool movie as fourth wall breaks. I also made a note to mention that there was a point where the music sounded suspiciously similar to the Mission Impossible theme. When I covered Free Guy and Jungle Cruise, I mentioned that Ryan Reynolds and The Rock are pretty much cult of personality actors. It kind of was reinforced with this movie. I didn't even know that this was coming out. Worked out pretty well for that statement. Though I did enjoy this movie slightly more than those two because there wasn't anything that I found offensively bad other than a few groan-worthy lines. What I want to know is, why did this get significantly more panned than those two? If anyone watching this enjoyed Jungle Cruise and/or Free Guy but didn't enjoy Red Notice, please tell me what was present in this movie that you didn't like that wasn't also present in those two movies. I'm genuinely curious. I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 10. So that does it. Thank you for watching, and before you go, this is a YouTube channel. There is a subscribe button. You have a YouTube account if you're watching this. You can click the subscribe button. But I'm not going to tell you to. Don't feel like it. You got to come to that decision on your own.